Most of the people were focused on, more money for the NGOs. The NGOs fund the trip over to the Houston airport if you're in McAllen, like I was when I saw this. And then these illegals are boarding airplanes, unable to speak a word of English, and then simply flown all over the United States. That's all being done by the NGOs.
And that was Wisconsin Congressman Scott Fitzgerald with me in the last hour, explaining why he is a no on the Senate border deal if it reaches the House of Representatives. House Republican leaders officially oppose this bill, saying any consideration of it would be a waste of time. 24 senators, meanwhile, are also opposing this deal. 21 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and Bernie Sanders, all coming out against this deal. The Democrats opposing unconditioned aid for Israel. However, the National Border Patrol Council is endorsing the plan, saying that while it's not perfect, it is better than the status quo. Sources telling Fox that there were more than 6,600 southern border encounters on Sunday alone, 6,600 on Sunday. That included 160 Chinese nationals at the San Diego border. My sources tell me some of the activity now is shifting from Texas to San Diego and certainly to Arizona. Joining me right now is one of the chief negotiators of this border deal, Oklahoma Senator James Lankford. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Good to see you. You bet, glad to have the conversation.
Yeah, and I know that you've been working hard on this deal, Senator, so I want to make sure you have your time to explain it. We've had a lot of pushback from your Republicans on both your Republican colleagues on both the Senate and the House side. So let's first talk about what the Wisconsin congressman just noted, and that is the more money for the NGOs. We know that the NGOs are the ones that are funding the travel for many of these migrants. They put them on the plane in Houston. They send them wherever they want to go. Why are you agreeing to more money for the NGOs in this deal?
Yeah, this is actually a side-by-side agreement. We want to make sure the agreement actually gets implemented. All of our concern is we're going to pass tougher laws and Biden's going to just ignore them. So we actually attach the funding for these NGOs to the implementation of the bill itself. So the money for the NGOs doesn't fully go out until we get more deportation flights, till we get more detention beds, till they hire more ICE officers, till they hire more Border Patrol officers, till they implement the tougher standards. So that money is held until we actually get the full implementation of the other areas. So that's a leverage point for us. We've got several of those that are built in the bill because we don't think Biden's going to do it unless he's forced to do it. This is a way to force him to do it.
Well, you say it's a leverage, but this was one of the topics at the meeting last night, the whip meeting, in terms of having your colleagues understand the bill better. And what I'd like to know is, okay, so you've got money going to the NGOs. Where specifically is there money to actually secure the border?
Oh, yeah, there's a tremendous amount of money to secure the border. There's more money for border wall construction. There's more money for ICE, more money for Border Patrol. There's more money for asylum officers hiring. There's more money for deportation flights. There's more money for detention beds themselves. We actually build a system that can actually detain and deport individuals and to be able to turn them out of the country. That's what we have now under Biden, is a system to be able to pick them up and release them into the country. This system that we're building does the exact opposite. And I understand the frustration of some of my House Republican colleagues and Senate Republican colleagues because we've H.R. 2 as the standard. That is a bill that was a very well crafted, very well done, very comprehensive border security bill. But unfortunately, they got 0 votes for it in the House of Representatives on the Democrat side. We got 0 votes for it on the Democrat side in the Senate. So we got to figure out, are we going to just look at this and to say we got to have the perfect bill, or we got to make some real progress? This bill is focused on what can we do right now, because as you mentioned, we had 6,600 people on Sunday. We had 6,700 people yesterday. The numbers continue to climb. We need to do something about it to make this stop.
Well, Senator, that's exactly right. And when you look at the overall number, the expectation or the estimate is that there are 8 to 10 million illegals in this country now on Joe Biden's watch. They came in through the border on Joe Biden's watch in the last 3 years and breached the country and are here illegally. So you're telling me that, oh, no Democrats voted for the H.R. 2. Well, I say to you, so what? Okay, 10 million people are in this country on Joe Biden's watch. Is there no accountability for that? That you're saying 5,000 people can come in before anything gets done? I spoke with former President Trump about this weekend. He is urging Republicans to reject this deal. He writes this on Truth Social. This bill is a great gift to the Democrats, a death wish for the Republican Party. It takes the horrible job the Democrats have done on immigration and the border, absolves them, and puts it squarely on the shoulders of Republicans. We need a separate border and immigration bill. It should not be tied to any foreign aid in any way, shape, or form. Before the bill was released, I sat down with the 45th president on Sunday Morning Futures, and here's the case he made. Watch.
You can't do a bad deal. The deal they're looking at is terrible. It's no good, and it's no good for the Republicans. And frankly, any Republican that signs it should be ashamed of himself or herself. It's 5,000. You don't have to look beyond that because it's a very weak deal. But for starters, they want to allow 5,000 people to come on to our country, like on a daily basis, they said. On a daily basis, 5,000 people? That's a lot of people.
Senator, how did you come up with 5,000 people? Was this Kyrsten Sinema's idea, or did you want 5,000 people every day?
No, I don't want 5,000 people any day. Let me just set something straight here. No, let me set something straight on this. If President Trump was president right now, we wouldn't have the numbers that we have right now. But also this 5,000 number has been the most misunderstood part of all of this. This is not about 5,000 people allowed into the country. This is about an emergency authority that kicks in above and beyond everything else. The goal is every single person is detained and deported in the process, whether it's one or whether it's 5,000. But there is an extra emergency authority that gets in if we get caravans, if we had a day like yesterday or the day before or the day before that or the day before that where the border shuts down and everyone is deported. No one is even processed at all. Everyone's just turned around and sent back into Mexico. So this is an extra layer. What happens on day one is that people have a higher standard for asylum. They go through additional screenings for asylum that's much tougher, and then they're turned around. But if we get a big rush to the border like we're having right now, there's an extra layer to turn people around as fast as possible. So no way this is about letting 5,000 people a day like we've got some clicker counting people off at 5,000 and then we stop it. That's not what it is. It is actually an extra layer of security to make sure that we do have a possibility when we're overrun to not default to turning in as Biden does now, but the default is turning everyone around.
Yeah, and thank you for explaining that, because that has been one of the main issues for so many people as far as pushback. But with all due respect, at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's 5,000 people coming in before anything can get done about it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't this bill give the ability to the executive branch to call it all off whenever they want in an emergency situation? On what basis should we be trusting Joe Biden to use that effectively and honestly? To just shut it down and say, forget about that. That's null and void right now. We're in an emergency situation.
Yeah, so let me just clarify that emergency authority is a bolt-on. Everybody else is thinking that's the whole bill. That is not the bill. That is a tiny part. Literally, it is 7 pages of a 370-page bill that changes how we handle ICE, how we handle Border Patrol, how we handle the asylum process, how we do a much faster process for actually avoiding the appeals that are happening for 10 years right now. It changes it to 90 days, so it compresses everyone to be able to turn around. There's this one piece that says basically if there's a surge, a caravan, or something else that comes in, there's an additional layer of authorities on this. It is 275 days a year, this year, that the border is shut down on it if we continue to have a rush. So it protects the rest of this year to be able to make sure that there's authority to be able to do it. But yes, there is a waiver authority in it for 45 days. If we have a hurricane, if we have something else that comes through Central America that changes some of the dynamic in the way we have to handle in case of an emergency. By the way, that is a normal authority that's out there. And you talk about that this is a gift to Joe Biden. Joe Biden's going to only be in the White House for another 10 months at this point. This authority that I'm talking about only lasts 3 years. It is only an authority. Again, it's a bolt-on extra piece just while we're ramping up all the staff, but everyone's focused on that like it's the whole bill. It is literally a tiny portion. The biggest portion is the way we turn people around and the way that we actually apprehend, detain, and deport people. That's the heart of the bill.
Does the bill do anything to address the gotaways? 2 million in the last couple of years?
It does not address anything on the interior. Quite frankly, the interior has plenty of authorities on it because ICE has the authority to be able to handle all those folks. The problem is Biden's not doing it. So the problem is the way we handle asylum at the border.
And isn't that the key point? Joe Biden is not doing it. For the last 3 years, we've heard from Alejandro Mayorkas that the border is secure. Is there no accountability for that? The fact that on Joe Biden's watch, we've had 8 to 10 million illegals in this country, and now we have to figure out what to do with those people? President Trump's talking about mass deportation. Do you just wipe that under the rug and just do a new deal right now? It's no problem. What has happened in the last 2.5 years?
Nope. Actually, we're trying to focus on how to secure the border right now and how to have implementation long term. No question, people that are in the interior that are here illegally present can all be deported. We have the authorities to do that. The problem is at the southern border, especially with the asylum laws. As you recall, in 2019, we had some days under President Trump where we had 4,500 people that were illegally crossing the border in 2019. At that time, President Trump was asking for more authorities on asylum. This bill gives it. So days like that would never happen again.
It's been 10,000 people a day for a little while now. Real quick, will Chuck Schumer allow any amendments on this bill or no?
Oh, no, we have to have amendments. There are parts that need to be fixed. This is a negotiated agreement, but we have demanded there have to be amendments on this bill.
Senator, thank you. Senator James Lankford explaining away the border bill. We'll be right back.